I have a question for the maggots. So, y'all got everything you wanted, right? Presidency, majority Senate, majority House, majority Supreme Court. Every single ball that could possibly be in your court is there right now. What exactly more is it that you need in order to stop bitching about any and everything? Because I still see insidiously, y'all are madder than you were before. So much for owning the libs. Are you not happy? And this is, of course, just the exhausting beginning of what we're bound to witness unfolding over the course of the next 4 years, which is you lot having all of the power and subsequently having to reconcile with the inevitable revelation that black people, trans people, Mexican people, whoever else you have a fucking problem with for some reason, are not the root causes of your issues. You are miserable, hateful, bitter, spiteful bitches because that's who you are and always have been. We could get rid of all of the minorities, all of the queer people in this country, and your ass would still be sitting there mad as fuck, hating yourself, hating your life, hating your job, hating your spouse, hating your children, because you're just a mad ass bitch and nothing will ever make you happy. Hell, if we did that, y'all would likely just start discriminating against the white people who have browner hair and browner eyes than you. Y'all are chasing your fucking tails and forcing all of us to watch.
Those of you who always say, well, Claire, you can't support President Trump because, he only favors the rich and he really doesn't care about the poor. This is one of the biggest misconceptions on Trump. Just today, Trump presented the largest tax cut in history for middle-class working Americans. This would include no tax on tips, no tax on seniors' Social Security card, no tax on overtime pay, renew Trump's middle-class tax cuts.
That's crazy, Claire. None of what you said is true. Not a single silly word that came out of your mouth just now was the truth. Trump is proposing an $880 billion cut to Medicaid, Medicare, and the Children's Health Insurance Program. Do you know why they're doing that, Claire? It's so that they can give tax cuts to the tune of $4.5 trillion over the next 10 years to wealthy billionaires. Does that sound like what you were saying? It kind of sounds like the opposite of what you were saying, Claire. Not only that, unless you are making over $450,000 a year, your taxes are going up. That's you, Claire, I assume, and me, and everybody else except for the 0.1% of Americans who do that. When he makes cuts to housing and education, is that to punish the billionaires and help the middle class? Claire? No, obviously not. These cuts to these programs hurt the elderly and children and working families. What part of that is good for the middle class, Claire? Also, you're getting taxed on tips still. Also, you're getting taxed on overtime, if we still have overtime, because they're getting rid of unions. Do you even... I'm going to just start making videos where 100% of what I say is wrong and just see if I can just get away with it. The moon's cheese. Earth is flat. Barney the dinosaur was actually 8 raccoons in a costume.
I fear that Trump will learn an executive order doesn't actually hold much real power. This week, an AP reporter was removed from a press event in the Oval Office because the highly respected news agency continued to refer to the Gulf of Mexico by its internationally recognized name, rather than adopting Trump's declared name, the Gulf of America. And that's just it. He simply declared it, but he doesn't have naming authority outside the US. In fact, his power is even more limited than just that. He can only change policies for the federal government. For example, he issued executive orders banning DEI initiatives, but not really. The executive orders ended DEI activities for the federal workforce and merely encouraged businesses to do the same. He has no authority outside the federal government, but it feels like that sometimes after we see company after company complying with the mandate. My favorite example from this week is Trump's declaration over paper straws. You probably heard he's banned them with an executive order, but again, he cannot do that. He cannot dictate what a private business manufactures or what a restaurant serves. The executive order stops the federal government from purchasing paper straws and using them at official events. So I guess no paper straws at the Easter egg roll this year. By the way, celebrating Easter at work falls under, you guessed it, DEI. Presidential executive orders can direct federal agencies but cannot force private business to change operations unless tied to regulations or government contracts. Trump is not king. Let's keep that between us. Let's keep Trump busy with paper straws and renaming bodies of water.
And I'm sorry that you think you own racism, because you don't.
Did she just say people of color stole racism?
Y'all, can you imagine if next year's Super Bowl is all white people?
Yes. Yes, we can.
This year's Super Bowl had not one white person in it.
Kind of sounds like you want some diversity, equity, and inclusion, babes.
I mean, I personally thought the show was trash, but
And I think that whatever box dye hair color you're using is also trash.
I'm sure that I will get a ton of fucking hate for this video because I'm white.
Yes, and because you're loud and wrong.
White people can't experience racism.
I'm not certified and hooked on phonics, so I don't know how I can spell this out for you. Racism requires systemic power. White people have never been denied housing, jobs, or basic rights just because they're white. Inconvenience is not oppression. Discrimination and prejudice are not the same thing as racism, because that requires an entire system working against you, and that has never happened to white people in the United States. Think systemic barrier. Sorry, I asked you to think. It would be like if somebody made a law that boxed-eyed, tattooed, bad eyebrow, butch-bodied Karens can't live in certain neighborhoods because of the color of their skin. Like, it's so pale. I'm gonna get some sunscreen. That thing you're feeling? It's discomfort. The same level of discomfort that Donald Trump feels when the McRib is out of season. It's an incurable hanger at best. But I'm gonna hold your hand with a hazmat suit on when I say this. Diversity isn't a personal attack on white people. It just feels that way because you're so used to being the default. And I'm a white-passing Puerto Rican, so I understand privilege, but I also understand history. There's no such thing as reverse racism, especially in a system that is designed to benefit whiteness.